Hello and welcome to the first episode of Model Train People's Profile on the Tokachi Sen. I'm Matt, and the Tokachi Sen is my N-scale layout set in Hokkaido, Japan in the late 1960s. In this series, I'll be covering all aspects of constructing and operating a model railroad and what is involved specifically with modeling a layout set in post-Second World War Showa Japan. Why Japan? The decision to build a model railroad set in Japan was a choice that evolved over time. I had originally planned to set my model railroad layout in West Virginia. This is because I've always found coal hauling operations in the Appalachian Mountains to be very cool. I've always loved the image of long drags of coal cars with multiple steam engines working up a hard grade to be peak railroading. So, when I started building my layout, I actually started with modeling a fictional West Virginia coal hauler based on the Coal and Coke Railroad. However, as I've become more involved in the social aspects of the hobby, I realized I wanted to build something that I wouldn't experience going to someone else's layout. This is when the idea of modeling Japan started to percolate. I actually lived and worked in Japan for a couple of years in the early 2010s, and had already started a side collection of modern JR group trains, mainly based on trains that I had ridden or seen on a regular basis in the area where I lived. With this and my involvement with some other Japan rail modelers on the Model Train People Discord, I started to look into the idea of modeling Kogatetsu, or the Japanese National Railways operations in rural Japan in 1960s. Japanese National Railways, or JNR as it's usually referred to, provide me a way to combine a few of my different interests in modeling. First, in the late 1960s in Japan, steam locomotives were still in use on many of the secondary main lines and branch lines across the country, especially in regions such as Tohoku, Hokkaido, and Kyushu. Second, Japan is an extremely mountainous country, and rail lines away from the coast often curve and have many tunnels, perfect for model railroading. Third, in the 1960s, there was still a lot of active coal mining going on across Japan, and JNR played a vital role in transporting coal from places like Hokkaido and Kyushu. Fourth, JNR operations were also passenger heavy, which gives me the ability to run a lot of passenger trains, which is another interest of mine. Fifth, and finally, modeling Japan gave me a way to reconnect with a country and a culture that is very dear to me. The setting. So, the Tokachi Sen is a fictionalized version of the Namoro main line located in Tokachi Sub-Prefecture in Hokkaido, Japan. Hence the name Tokachi Sen. Sen means line in Japanese. Hokkaido is one of the 4 main islands of Japan, and is the northernmost of those 4. It's also very rural, with a quarter of Japan's arable land. Economically, Hokkaido is a major producer of agricultural products and also has many fishing ports due to its proximity to the northern Pacific. Tourism also plays a major role in Hokkaido's economy, as the cool summers provides a way for people to escape from the heat and humidity of central and southern Japan, and then in the winter the mountains allow for skiing and other forms of winter recreation. Throughout most of the 20th century, coal mining was also a major industry. For a model railroad, this provides a wide variety of operational possibilities. In modeling the Tokachi Sen, I'll be able to run limited express sleeper trains filled with tourists coming from Honshu via Hakodate, local passenger trains, merchandise freights of reefers and container cars coming from places like Kuroshio, way freights, and finally coal drags. So this provides a wide variety of things that I can model and run in a prototypical operation. So today I want to talk a bit about the layout plan itself and how I came to the design of the layout. As I worked on and modified the track plan that I'd be working with, I knew I wanted to incorporate certain features. First, I wanted a coal mine. So as I mentioned, coal mining is a core model railroading interest of mine. I've always wanted to model it. So that was going to be an important piece of the layout. Second, I like doing interchange work between branch lines and main lines that allows operational interest in swapping locomotives, assembling and breaking apart trains. Third, I wanted to have locomotive facilities, particularly for steam locomotives. Especially, I wanted to find a way to fit a turntable onto the layout so I can allow engines to be turned easily. And fourth, I knew I wanted to have a multi-track staging yard in order to hold trains during an operating session. The plan itself has its origins in a 2001 model railroader project layout called the Appalachian Central, which was designed by Lionel Strang. It features in a few issues, and you can also get a PDF download from the model railroader for designing this layout as well. It's a great little layout. It's a 5.5 foot by 7 foot L that has that has all of the features I wanted, like a staging yard, a main line that has continuous running, a branch line that goes up a grade to coal mines. And it's one that had always held my interest since I was a teenager. So, because it had all of these core features that I wanted, I knew this is where I wanted to start. Then I made some changes. So to build my layout, I first got to work with larger space. My layout is an 8 foot by 6.5 foot L. And the first thing I was able to do is I was able to fit in an engine facility in one corner of the yard. I was also able to add in a switchback and a reversing loop on the branch line as well. This allows for the engines that work the coal mines to be turned as well. A secondary inspiration for my layout design came from the artwork of Kunihiko Ikeda. Tokachi Sen's artwork and tracks plans are very helpful in allowing me to visualize what I want the layout to look like in the long term and in the context of scenery and buildings. He does these amazing illustrations that are similar to those of Ian Rice's, who published a lot in Model Railroader back in the 2000s. And these illustrations of Ikeda-san's are a great way to get a feel for what a model railroad set in Japan might look like. For anyone who's interested in modeling Japanese railroading, I highly recommend checking out his work. As the track plan took shape, I was able to break the layout up into 4 key areas. And we'll do a little tour around the layout. So the first area that I'm constructing is a staging yard. This staging yard is on the back wall, and it has 5 holding tracks and a runaround, and it's where I'll hold mainline trains between and during sessions. This area will basically represent everything that's not on the layout itself, per se, such as Hakodate, Sapporo, Kushiro, and Nemuro. Running counterclockwise, or west out of the staging yard, we arrive in the fictional city of Akiyama. Akiyama is a small city set in the western part of Tokachi. Akiyama has a small yard and an engine depot where locomotives can be stored and turned and serviced, along with a station and a couple small industries. As our train proceeds along from Akiyama, we will arrive in Nishitanagawa, where we find a small village with a station and the junction with the Kamichojo branch. If we go to the right from there, we'll find ourselves back in the staging yard. If we go up the branch off to the left, we go up a grade and around a loop to find ourselves in the resort town of Kamichojo Onsen. Kamichojo Onsen has a runaround track, a couple of yard tracks, and a station for resort traffic. In my mind, I envision Kamichojo Onsen being a resort town that you would find in many ski resorts in Japan. It will have a hot spring hotel, and potentially I'll even model a ski area on the mountainside as well. From Kamichojo Onsen, coal train traffic would also proceed on from there by backing out onto the switchback and then having the coal cars pushed up the grade to the Takahashi coal mine. And then the loads will then come down around the reversing loop and get turned around. And then that will turn the engines for the run back down to Wakayama, where they'll then be picked up by a mainline train to be run back into staging. So that's the brief overview of the Tokachi Sen. In future episodes, I plan to talk about different aspects of the layout in more detail, particularly ranging in its construction, the rolling stock I'm going to be using, the operational plan that I'm in the process of creating, and more. If you have any specific questions that you would like answered about this layout or about modeling Japanese trains, please let me know, and I'll be happy to answer those questions in a future episode. Thanks so much, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.